Hello students, we are back with another concept class for class 12th students. আৰু আজিৰ ক্লাছত আমি পঢ়িম parametric shifter বিষয়ে. Parametric shift one of the most important topic of macroeconomics for class 12th. I hope তোমালোকে এই কনসেপ্টটো অলৰেডি যদি চেপ্টাৰ্ছবোৰ পঢ়িছা তেনেহ'লে এই টপিকটোৰ বিষয়ে তোমালোকে জ্ঞাত হৈছা আৰু আজিৰ ক্লাছত এই টপিকটোৱে খুব সুন্দৰকৈ উইদিন আ শ্বৰ্ট স্পেন অফ টাইম তোমালোকক বুজাবলৈ ট্ৰাই কৰিম So let's start today's class with great zeal and enthusiasm. Fine? So let's understand what is parametric shift first. So what is parametric shift? আমি যদি parametric shift বুলি কওঁ, let us understand what is parametric shift. Fine. So parametric shift বুলি যদি কওঁ, it refers to a shift in line, but what type of line? হয়নে? আমি যেটা parametric shift বুলি কওঁ, it is a shift in line. But what type of line is it talking about? So parametric shift of line occurs when the value of a parameter such as slope or intercept of a linear consumption function changes, causing the line either to rotate or shift parallelly. So ইয়াতে কি কৈছে, what is parametric shift of a line? Parametric shift of a line occurs যেতিয়া there is a change in the value of the slope or intercept of a linear consumption function. আমি linear consumption function কি হয় already জানো। আমি জানো যে কি consumption function যোনটো হয়, it gives us a linear consumption function which we will be talking about in the next slide. So linear consumption function to যেটি আমি লিখো, linear consumption function to আমি কেনেকে লিখিব পাৰো, it is c is equal to c bar plus by, হয়নে? এই যোনটো linear consumption function আছে, এই linear consumption function tour যদি slope বা parameter change হয়, তেনেহলে কি হয়, there is a change in this linear consumption function. আৰু that change can either be a rotational change or it can be a shift in the linear consumption function. And when does it happens? কেতিয়া rotation হয়? Rotation কেতিয়া হয়? যেতিয়া there is change in slope. Whereas shift কেতিয়া হয়? When does the linear consumption function shift parallelly? It happens when there is change in the intercept. So we can say parametric shift of a line occurs যেতিয়া there is change in either the intercept or the slope of the linear consumption function. Fine? So parametric shiftক আমি দুটা ভাগত ভগাব পাৰো। এটা হৈছে আমি already কলো যে parametric shift when there is change in the slope of the linear consumption function. And the slope of the linear function is given by b, হয়নে? এইটোত যোনটো b আছে, which is the MPC, marginal propensity to consume, যাক আমি b দি represent কৰিছো, this is the slope of the consumption curve. আৰু যেতিয়া b change হয়, when the slope of the consumption curve changes, তেতিয়া there is a change in the consumption curve. And what kind of change? আমি already গম পালো, when slope changes, there is rotation of the consumption curve. Number two, the second type of parametric shift occurs when there is change in the intercept. Which is the intercept? It is the small c bar. C bar to ki hoy? It is the autonomous consumption. And whenever there is change in the intercept of the consumption curve, there will be parallel shift of the consumption curve. Fine? So আমি কি গম পাইছো, parametric shift of line out, there can be two type of shift. One when there is when there is change in the slope of the consumption curve, and next is when there is change in the intercept of the linear consumption curve. Fine? আৰু যেতিয়া শ্লোপ চেঞ্জ হয়, শ্লোপ মানে এই যোনটো লিনিয়াৰ কনজাম্পশ্যন কাৰ্ভৰ বি বা এমপিচি যেতিয়া চেঞ্জ হয়, there is rotation of the consumption curve or the consumption function. On the other hand, when the intercept changes, what is the intercept? It is the C bar, which is also said to be as the autonomous consumption. Then there is a parallel shift in the consumption function or consumption curve. Fine, let's understand these two types of parametric shift in details in our next slide with the help of an example. So in the next slide, এতিয়া আমি পঢ়িম the two types of parametric shift in details. First, আমি কি পঢ়িম parametric shift due to change in the slope of the consumption curve. Which was the slope of the consumption curve? It is the B or the MPC. যেতিয়া value of marginal propensity to consume or B change হয়, তেতিয়া হলে কেনে ধৰণে তোমাৰ কেনেধৰণে the consumption curve changes হয়নে সেই বস্তুটো with the help of an example আমি ইয়াতে explain কৰিব try কৰিম firstly এটা example দি explain কৰিম আৰু সেই exampleটোৱে যদি আমি diagrammatically plot কৰো what will be the change it will be reflected fine so ইয়াতে first চোৱা when C or MPC changes হয়নে আমি এইটো C নিলিখি আমি B বুলিও লিখিব পাৰো ইয়াতে জাস্ট এটা কথা মন কৰিব লাগিব ইয়াতে হৈছে মাৰ্জিনাল প্ৰপেনসিটি টু কনজিউম চেঞ্জেস এতিয়া সেই মাৰ্জিনাল প্ৰপেনসিটি টু কনজিউম আমি আমাৰ যোনটো তোমাৰ লিনিয়াৰ কনজাম্পশন ফাংশন হয় তাত আমি সি ডিও ৰিপ্ৰেজেন্ট কৰিব পাৰো বি ডিও ৰিপ্ৰেজেন্ট কৰিব পাৰো সো ইট ডাজ নট matter আমি কিহেৰে ৰিপ্ৰেজেন্ট কৰো সো ইট জাস্ট matter what matters is যে কি এমপিসি চেঞ্জ হৈছে বুজি পাইছা সো let us suppose the linear consumption function is given by this equation which is C is equal to C bar plus by যত C bar to কি হয় intercept হয় autonomous consumption হয় আৰু ইয়াতে y to of course income হয় what is b is the MPC in our example fine আৰু firstত আমি কি পঢ়িবলৈ গৈ আছো parametric shift due to change in slope of the consumption curve which is B যেতিয়া change হয় বা MPC যেতিয়া change হয় কেনেকুৱা ধৰণৰ parametric shift হয় so let us মানে first assume যে এই যোনটো linear consumption function আছে তাতে C বাৰৰ value হৈছে 4 আৰু B যোনটো MPC হয় তাৰ value হৈছে 0.5 substituting the value of তোমাৰ first substituting the value of substituting the value of তোমাৰ autonomous consumption C bar বা B যোনটো হয় MPC in our linear consumption function we get the first equation as C is equal to 4 plus 0.5y why কাৰণ ইয়াতে আমি কি ধৰি লৈছো C যোনটো small C বাৰৰ value হয় it is equal to 4 আৰু যোনটো B ৰ value হয় আমি কি ধৰি লৈছো 0.5 so আমাৰ যোনটো লিনিয়াৰ কনজাম্পশন ফাংশন আছে প্ৰথমতে কি আহে C bar আহে হয়নে so C বাৰৰ জায়গাত আমি কি লিখিম 4 হয়নে প্লাস তাৰ পিছত কি আহে by b ৰ ভ্যালু কিমান লৈছো আমি 0.5 আৰু y টো ইয়াৰ লগত মাল্টিপ্লাই হৈ যাব so the first equation is given by 4 plus 0.5y clear now let us suppose যে কি এই যোনটো b বা MPC ৰ ভ্যালু হেতু ইনক্রিজ হৈছে MPC ৰ ভ্যালু 0.5 ৰ পৰা ইনক্রিজ হৈছে 0.7 লৈ so the same equation changes হয়নে যে কি same equation to a C is equal to there is no change in intercept there is no change in the autonomous consumption so same equation to কি হৈ যাব just 4 plus 0.7y হৈ যাব 0.7y কিহৰ কাৰণে the value of MPC or the value of B has now increased from 0.5 to 0.7 so same equation etu same equation autonomous consumption যোনটো আছিল 4 এ থাকিব just ইয়াতে B ৰ value 0.5 ৰ পৰা 0.7 লৈ increase হৈ গৈছে it will be 4 plus 0.7y fine now let us suppose প্ৰথমতে আমি এটা ইকুৱেশন ধৰি ললো তাৰ পৰা আমি কি ধৰি লৈছো যে কি let us suppose that the value of MPC has increased from 0.5 to 0.7 fine Now let us suppose that is a MPC value initially 0.5 আছিল, তাৰ পৰা এতিয়া MPC value decrease হৈছে, কিমানলৈ decrease হৈছে 0.3. Initially আমি কিমান ধৰি লৈছো, value of MPC was 0.5. Now from 0.5 it has decreased to 0.3, such that the new consumption, linear consumption function becomes তোমাৰ C, আমি যোনটো C2 বুলি ধৰি লৈছো, is equal to 4 plus 0.3y. একো ডিফাৰেন্স নাই, C to C ভাগে আছে, 4 intercept একো চেঞ্জ হোৱা নাই, because autonomous consumption চেঞ্জ হোৱা নাই. The only change is that the value of B or MPC has decreased from 0.5 to 0.3. So ইয়াতে 0.3y হ'ব. So we go, I hope তোমালোকে এই তিনটা ইকুৱেশ্যনে কি ৰিপ্ৰেজেন্ট কৰিছে বুজি পাইছা. মই আকৌ ৰিপিট কৰি দিছো, য'ত C1 হয়নে, C1 is the consumption function when the value of MPC has increased from 0.5 to 0.7. So 4 plus 0.7y. Equation 1 or পৰা just কি change হৈছে, B2 increase হৈছে. Next, যোনটো C2 হয় consumption function to, ইয়াতে কি হৈছে, the value of B has decreased from 0.5 to 0.3. So বাকি সব একে থাকিব, C2 is equal to 4 plus 0.3y. Fine. এই তিনটা ইকুৱেশ্যন যদি আমি ডায়াগ্ৰামেটিক্যালি ৰিপ্ৰেজেন্ট কৰো, হয়নে, এই তিনটা ইকুৱেশ্যন যদি আমি ডায়াগ্ৰামেটিক্যালি ৰিপ্ৰেজেন্ট কৰো, it will show us that when the slope of the linear consumption function changes, there is a rotation of the consumption curve, showing that higher the value of B, higher will be the slope and vice versa. কি কৈছে, যিমানে ডাঙৰ স্লোপ হ'ব, তাৰমানে 0.5 ইনিশিয়ালি আছিল, তাৰে পৰা স্লোপ to increase হৈছে, বিৰ ভ্যালু কি হৈছে, increase হৈছে, MPC ৰ ভ্যালু increase হৈছে to 0.7. So when the slope of MPC has increased, higher the value of B, slope of the consumption curve will also be increased or higher, and vice versa. বুজি পাইছা, আমি যদি এই বস্তুটো গ্ৰাফিক্যালি ৰিপ্ৰেজেন্ট কৰো, তেনেহলে আমি কি দেখিম, higher the value of B, higher will be the slope, and vice versa, meaning lower the value of B, lower will be the slope. তাৰমানে এই তিনটা ইকুৱেশ্যনত lower slope কোনটো হ'ব, C2 আৰু higher slope কোনটো হ'ব, C1 ৰ, আৰু মাজত কোনটো থাকিব, যোনটো অৰিজিনেল আমাৰ ইকুৱেশ্যন আছে, ইকুৱেশ্যন 1. Fine. Let's put this equation and show graphically how does parametric shift occur when there is change in the value of B or MPC. Fine? Okay. In the next slide, let us see what happens. So, ইয়াতে কি হৈছে, যে first এটো হৈছে C, হয়নে, first যোনটো equation C is equal to 4 plus 0.5y, হয়নে. Of course consumption function হয় এটো কাৰণে ইয়াতে কি হয়, consumption functionত তোমাৰ কি আছে, autonomous consumption function আছে, যোনটোই আমাক represent কৰে যে even at zero level of income there will be certain consumption যোনটো আমি কৰ পৰা কৰো, previous saving অৰ পৰা কৰো, হয়নে, previous savings or use কৰি পেলাই কৰো, which is also referred to as these savings, হয়নে. So autonomous consumption represents that level of consumption which takes place even at zero level of income. গতিকে consumption curve যোনডাল হয়, it will never start from zero, because even at zero level of income there is certain level of consumption function, there is certain level of consumption represented by C bar. Fine. So first যোনটো আমাৰ consumption function আছে, আমাৰ এডাল, মই যোনটো মানে ৰঙাকে বক্স বনাই থৈছো হেডাল. Fine. তো তাত আমি কি দেখিছো, C is equal to 4 plus 0.5y. B ৰ ভ্যালু কিমান হয়, 0.5y. Now let us suppose আমি যোনটো ভাবি লৈছিলো যে B ৰ ভ্যালু has increased from 0.5 to 0.7, হয়নে, such that the new consumption function becomes C is equal to 4, যোনটো autonomous consumption ত কোনো difference বা change নাই, 0.4 plus 0.7y, which is C2. ইয়াতে আমি C2 বুলি ধৰি ল'ব পাৰো। আৰু আমি কি গম পাইছিলো যে যিমান B ৰ ভ্যালু যিমান হায়াৰ হ'ব, slope of the consumption function will also be higher. So ইয়াতে কি হ'ব যেতিয়া b ৰ value increase হয় from 0.5 to 0.7, the consumption function will rotate towards upward. বুজি পাইছা? Upward directionত there will be rotation of the consumption function. So first consumption function to কোনটো হয়? First যোনটো consumption function হয়, it will be c plus 4 c equal to 4 plus 0.5y. যোনটো first consumption function আছে সেই consumption function টোত কি হৈছে b ৰ value has increased from 0.5 to 0.7, as a result of which the consumption function rotate towards the up. Fine. So the slope is higher. The slope is higher. Slope of the consumption function is higher in case of the consumption function C1. Now we have assumed that the value of B or MPC has decreased from 0.7 to 0.3 with the autonomous consumption remaining the same, such that the new consumption function will be given by 4 plus 0.3y. So graphically amar A2. This is C2, 4 plus 0.3y. ইয়াতে কি দেখিছো আমি B বা যোনটো তোমাৰ MPC value হয়, it has fallen from 0.5 to 0.3. আৰু আমি কি গম পাইছিলো যে lower the value of B, lower will be the slope of the consumption function, হয়নে? So when the value of B or MPC decreases, there will be rotation of the consumption curve towards downwards. বুজি পাইছা? So there will be rotation of the consumption curve towards downwards. হয়নে? আৰু এই যোনটো rotation হয়, it shows that the new consumption function has a lower slope. Has a lower slope. Fine. So আমি higher slope মানে কি হয়? Higher slope represent কৰে যে কি তাৰ যোনটো slope of the consumption function আছে, it is more steeper. হয়নে? আৰু lower slope মানে কি হয়? Consumption function টো বেছিকৈ কি হৈ আহিছে? Flatter. So lower will be the slope, flatter will be the consumption function. বুজি পাইছানে? তাৰমানে যিমানে b ৰ value কম হয়, slope of the consumption function will be lower and the consumption function will be flatter. And higher the slope to যিমান বাঢ়ি বাঢ়ি গৈ থাকে because of increase in b or MPC, the higher, the steeper the consumption function will become. Fine. I hope you are clear with it. So yete last likha ase, when the value of MPC or B increases, the consumption curve rotates upward, becoming more steeper. Eto হয়নে? যেতিয়া b ৰ value increase হয়, আমি কি দেখিছো? There is rotation of the consumption function upwards. Rotation of the consumption function towards, হয়নে? ওপৰত, হয়নে? It rotates upwards. আৰু তাৰ যোনটো consumption function আছে, it becomes steeper. Why steeper? Because the slope of the indifference curve, so slope of the consumption function has increased. On the other hand, কি কৈছে? When the value of MPC or B decreases, there is a downwards rotation of the consumption function. তাৰমানে the consumption curve rotate downwards. হয়নে? তো যেতিয়া এইটো আমাৰ যোনটো b ৰ value যেতিয়া কমি আহিছে, consumption function টো কি হৈছে? Downwards rotate হৈ গৈছে. আৰু ইয়াত আমি কি দেখিছো? The consumption function has become flatter, or the consumption curve has become flatter. Fine. I hope you are clear with this first parametric shift that occurs as a result of change in the value of MPC, which is B. When there is increase in slope, the consumption curve or the consumption function becomes steeper. When there is fall in the slope or the value of MPC, the consumption function or the consumption curve becomes flatter. Therefore, we can conclude higher the value of B, higher will be the slope of the consumption curve. Lower the value of B, lower will be the value of the consumption curve. And যেতিয়া B increase হয়, there is a rotation upwards. যেতিয়া B value decrease হয়, there is a rotation downwards. I hope you are clear with this first type of parametric shift. With this, let's move to the next slide where we will be dealing with parametric shift due to change in the intercept. Which is the intercept? It is the C bar component of the consumption function, which reflects the autonomous consumption. Fine. Our autonomous consumption মানে কি? That part of consumption that takes place even when income is zero, because it is financed by previous saving. মানে আমি saving previous saving use কৰো, which is also referred to a situation of this saving. Fine. Okay, now let us assume that when there is change in the intercept or C bar. Of course, the linear consumption function will be given by C is equal to C bar plus by. Fine. Again, আমি ধৰি লৈছো C বাৰৰ value to 4 হয় আৰু যোনটো তোমাৰ B ৰ value হয় সেইটো 0.5 হয়. As a result, the equation of the consumption function becomes C is equal to 4 plus 0.5y. Fine. Now let us suppose the value of C bar increases from 4 to 6. Let us assume that C bar or zuntu value hoy, it increases from 4 to 6. The same equation becomes, it is just C bar or jagat ami 4 or jagat ki likhi dibo lagibo 6. There is no change in the slope or the value of MPC. So MPC remains as 0.5y. So it will be the second equation, C2 is equal to 6 plus 0.5y. Then let us again assume that the value of C bar or autonomous consumption decreases from 4 to 2, such that the new equation becomes C2 is equal to 2 plus 0.5y. There is no change in the slope. So slope 0.5y hoy, just value of C bar has decreased from 4 to 2. Fine. আৰু এই above যোনকেইটা situation হয়, it can of course be represented graphically. আৰু যেতিয়া আমি graphically represent কৰিম, এইটো কি দেখায়? When the intercept changes, যেতিয়া intercept to change, when the value of autonomous consumption or C bar changes, the consumption curve either shift upwards or it shift downwards without change in its slope. So there is a parallel shift. মানে শ্লোপত কোনো চেঞ্জ নহয়। বুজি পাইছা? When intercept changes, either the consumption function will shift towards upward, naima it will shift towards downward, but there will be no change in its slope, meaning that there will be a parallel shift in the consumption function. Fine. আমি এই তিনটা equation, when the value of তোমাৰ C bar increases or decreases, graphically represent কৰিব পাৰো, যোনটো আমি next slide তোমালোকক represent কৰি দেখাম. Fine. ইয়াতে দেখিছা, there is shift of the consumption function, meaning যে কি ইয়াতে slope change হোৱা নাই, just parallelly তোমাৰ consumption curve ডাল either ওপৰলৈ বা তললৈ shift হৈ গৈছে when there is change in the value of C bar. Fine. So original যোনটো indifference curve হয় সেইটো আমি কোনটো ধৰি লৈছিলো? এইটো, where C is equal to 4 plus 0.5y. Yate C bar or value to kiman hoy 4 hoy. Even at zero level of income, we see that there is certain level of consumption, which is C bar or autonomous consumption financed from previous savings. Fine. Now let us suppose that autonomous consumption has increased from 4 to amar 6, such that the consumption function juntu ase ba consumption curve shifts parallelly towards upwards, shifts upwards parallelly to A2 function, which is represented by C2 is equal to, of course yate etu bostu bhul likha ase, don't ignore this, it should have been C2 is equal to 6 plus 0.5y, because now there is no change in the slope. The slope remains 0.5y. Slope to yate change howa nai. So it will be C2 is equal to 6 plus 0.5y. Now let us suppose that the value of the autonomous consumption has decreased from 0.4 to 0.2. Sorry, from 4 to 2. Of course, there is no change in the B or the value of MPC. So the new consumption function juntu hoy, it will be given by C3 is equal to, there will be, it has the autonomous juntu consumption aside, it has decreased from 4 to 2. So it will be 2 plus 0.5y. Why? There will be no change in the value of MPC. I hope you are clear with it. Yate oloman likhat mistake ase dhoribo parisa je first jetia original junto consumption function or equation hoy 4 plus 0.5y. Next C bar has increased from 4 to 6, so it will be C2 is equal to 6 plus 0.5y. Next equation or ki hoise the value of C bar has decreased from 4 to 2. So the next equation is given by 2 plus 0.5y without change in the value of MPC. Mane MPC has remained at 0.5y only. Fine. Now let us see that what happens when there is change in the value of autonomous consumption in such a way that it has decreased from 4 to 2. যেতিয়া তোমাৰ autonomous consumption 4 ৰ পৰা 2 লৈ decrease হৈছে, there will be parallel shift of the consumption function downwards. Consumption function to downward shift হয়. Fine. আৰু ইয়াত দুটাতেই দেখিবা যে there is a parallel shift, meaning যে slope যোনটো হয়, slope of the consumption function do not change. There is a parallel shift, meaning slope of the consumption function does not change because there is no change in the MPC. Fine. Clearly, graphically, আমি কি গম পাইছো, when the value of C bar increases, the consumption curve shifts upwards parallelly. When the value of C bar decreases, কি দেখিছো, the consumption curve shifts downwards parallelly. I hope you are clear with it. I hope you are clear with this second type of parametric shift, which happens due to change in the intercept. When there is change in intercept or the value of C bar, আমি কি দেখিছো, graphically there will be parallel shift in the consumption function without change in its slope. C bar or value যেতিয়া increase হৈছে, there is a rightward shift. C bar or value যেতিয়া decrease হৈছে, there is a leftward shift. I hope you are clear with this. I hope you are clear with the second type of the parametric shift and the whole concept of parametric shift in today's short video. We will be back with such kind of short videos in our next classes. Stay tuned with Adhyayan for learning more such concepts in a interesting way. Until then, see you. Bye bye. Thank you for joining with me in today's class. Bye.